First, it was Tottenham. Now, a 3-2 defeat to Villareal means Arsenal have lost 2 friendlies in a row. It's only pre-season, it's only a friendly, but should we start to be worried with Old Trafford next week? This is Arsenal Unfiltered. Let's get started. Good morning, hello and welcome. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you are well. This is Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host, Mark. Thank you so much for being here. It really does mean the world, whether you're a returning listener or you've just clicked on Arsenal Unfiltered for the first time. I really appreciate your support. Today, as you heard at the top, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the Arsenal 2, Villareal 3 defeat at the Emirates last night. I watched the whole game. First game I've managed to watch live this pre-season. I've caught some of the others on catch-up, but it was nice to watch it live and experience it in real time. Some really interesting points, I think, that have come out of the game about individual players, Max Dowman especially, but also we got our first real look at Victor Gyökeres, so that's very exciting. We'll talk a little bit about him. We're also going to talk a little bit about the players returning from injury, the players still out with injuries, Martin Zubimendi, and some of the problems that we saw last night that maybe might have us a little bit worried before Old Trafford next Sunday. Before we get started, like I say, really appreciate all the support of everyone who's here. And if you are here and you're enjoying it, please consider following the podcast, first of all, wherever you get your podcast from, but also leaving a 5-star review. That really does help us grow the podcast and allow more Arsenal fans to hear the Arsenal Unfiltered word, I guess, 3 times a week. So yeah, that would be really appreciated if you wouldn't mind. Okay, let's get started. And it was quite a strong team selection from Mikel Arteta, but with one very key big change, I guess, that he made from what we would consider our official starting lineup, in the sense that the midfield was fully rotated. None of Martin Zubimendi, Declan Rice or Martin Ødegaard started. And that was it was interesting to me from kickoff, but then very interesting in the first half before the changes were made and Zubimendi came on and Ødegaard came on a little bit later. So for me, I thought, when I watched Christian Norgard, Mikel Merino and Ethan Nwaneri in midfield individually, especially in the first 25 minutes, I thought, wow, these players are playing really well. And they look like they're playing for a spot. Let's take it across the midfield. So Merino, I thought he was looking fairly dangerous in an attacking sense, but the way he was pressing, the way he was snapping into tackles showed to me that he has kept his physical level quite high over the summer. At the start of last season, we saw a Mikel Merino who didn't feel like, and you know, this isn't a criticism of him because he was injured in his very first training session. He didn't feel like he was ever at the physical level until he went up front and started playing regularly and playing games back to back. And then when he went up front, you could see his physical level was good enough for the Premier League. He just never got the chance and the time to get going, really, in the early parts of the season. In that game yesterday, I did really think, wow, he's snapping into challenges. He looks physically there. Very good. Christian Norgard, I literally wrote down early doors in the half, like, this guy can smell danger really well. He kept popping up in really good positions to win the ball back, to deal with the problems. So yeah, he's doing exactly what I said I needed him to do in the last episode to be successful. Be that kind of destroyer, be that utility man, sniff out danger. And obviously in that context, I was talking about him seeing out games and helping us win games. He obviously started this one and I thought he was decent at times. And then Ethan Nwaneri, he looks so sharp. I mean, Max Dowman is the story of this pre-season, but don't ignore what Ethan Nwaneri is producing. He is producing really wonderful little individual moments, and I think he has set himself up for quite a season this season. I'm really excited about Ethan Nwaneri and what he might bring. And of course, we know, I don't think Arsenal have officially announced it yet, but we know from reporting that he's signed a deal or is very close to signing a deal. No one is really worried about that anymore. So it seems like Ethan Nwaneri has clearly been given a bigger role in the squad. So that's the only thing that really changed in team selection, apart from Victor Gyökeres coming in, but we kind of think he'll be the first choice striker once the season really gets going anyway. But we had Saka, we had Saliba, White, Miles Lewis-Skelly, we had Jakub Kiwior at left centre back without Gabriel and Calafiori fit enough to start. So the pieces were there for a good performance. But the reason I highlight that midfield is individually, I thought they played really well. But my word, were they porous, and it was so easy for Villareal to get through us. One player I didn't realise that would be playing for Villareal, Nicolas Pepe, had a really, really good time. Found it very easy to get down that left-hand side. Partly because I don't think Miles Lewis-Skelly had his best game from a defensive point of view, but also because the midfield just wasn't supporting him. You know, we're used to seeing Declan Rice kind of mop up in that area, deal with lots of issues, and we were just very, very easy to play through. And that was a feature at times last season, and it has been a feature when we remove Declan Rice from the picture. So it is a little bit concerning. I mean, I guess if we ever see Norgard, Marino, and Wanieri line up together in a in a proper game, in a regular season game, two things have happened. We've either had horrible luck with injuries again, touch wood, or it's a League Cup draw against a lower opposition, an FA Cup draw against a lower opposition, and Mikel feels comfortable rotating all three of them. I don't think you'll ever see, this season at least, a midfield three without one of Martin Zubimendi, Declan Rice or Martin Ødegaard in there leading things. And we did improve in the midfield when Martin Zubimendi came on. Again, it's not a criticism of Christian Norgard, that, because I thought he was the best Arsenal player on the pitch. Got his goal, obviously, which was really important for him, and a nice corner, to be fair. Let's give Gabriel Martinelli his credit there. It was a lovely delivery and well-worked routine, so well done, Nicolas Jova. However, just as a group, I didn't think they were good enough, and when Martin Zubimendi came in, he kind of tied them up in a group a little bit better, so that's positive. But yeah, it was very, very porous, very difficult to watch, and it left the defence exposed quite a lot. And for the two first Villareal goals, I'm not sure on that third one. You don't get the replays on these pre-season friendlies and the analysis that you do on a Premier League game, so I didn't really see an angle that conclusively told me whether it was offside or not. There was some appeals from Gabriel, but for the first two, oh my word, it was poor. Kivior probably definitely to blame for the first one. Didn't really deal with it. Didn't make a decisive decision. Was just kind of screening the ball. We'd already got away with one, having hit the post, and then we didn't close down the player crossing the ball very well. We allowed the cross to come in. It was all just very sloppy, and Kivior did not deal with it. And then the second one, I think it's more a mistake of how easily they got through the midfield and us not going with runners very effectively. So, yeah, two really sloppy goals. I guess for me, the question is, does this matter? Because part of those goals were the porous midfield that I just spoke about. Part of it will also be we're not at 100% focus. And we shouldn't be. I don't want us to be at 100% focus. That's really important to note, because we want to be at 100% come May time as well. And if you go too early in pre-season, you try too hard and you exert yourself too much, that makes May and June, May actually, sorry, a more difficult proposition as you've been doing it for such a long time. I can't quite put my finger on it. I think I would have preferred to see us less casual at this point. If you play a friendly and the opposition scores 3 great goals, that's sort of like, okay, whatever. Like, you don't need to worry about it. But it just felt like the first two especially were goals of our own making. And whilst you can say, you can absolutely sit here and make the argument of it's pre-season, the players are not physically ready yet, the players are not mentally ready yet, and we've rotated our whole midfield, which is obviously a very key part to how we defend, so don't worry about these mistakes that have happened. I can absolutely get behind that argument. I also really do see the side where people are a bit worried about these errors that we're making and the defensive lapses that we're having this pre-season. It does feel like we're a little bit undercooked in my eyes, but there's not too much we can do about it. Now we just have to trust Mikel Arteta is going to get the guys up to speed and is going to ramp up the training intensity for the rest of this week and into next week and really get everyone to the right point. It's, it takes me back. I've previously been a strength coach, and in that field you always talk about periodization and being ready on the day, not, the day before or the day after, being ready on the day. And I do wonder if Arsenal are doing that a little bit, but obviously with with football and a prolonged season, you have to be ready for the season. And because it's not just one day, it's a spread out bit, you kind of almost as a fan would like to see in 2 games before, 1 game before the actual start, you'd like to see, cool, that's what we look like, that's how we're going to play, and like to see them ready. I don't think we looked last night like we're going to be ready for the Athletic Club game. Hopefully we will be ready for the Old Trafford game. Let's talk a little bit about our 2 goals. Obviously, great corner, like I mentioned, from Gabriel Martinelli. Great header from Christian Norgard. Really liked that routine. Again, well done, Nicolas Jova. And the second goal was a penalty, really well dispatched by Martin Ødegaard after he'd come on. But again, it was a flick and a turn from Max Dowman that earned the penalty, just like he did with his run against Newcastle. He earned the penalty that was important in the end. And look, Max Dowman, let's just jump to him because I really want to talk about individuals. The kid is really knocking at the door whether he'll be involved or not next season. And I've seen it posted online, can he be the Saka backup this year with Nwaneri being the de facto Martin Ødegaard backup? It does feel like we've got a shared role there between Nwaneri and Dowman of, Martin Ødegaard and Bukayo Saka are not going to be able to play every single game. You two feel like the next guy's up because there is no indication that we're really trying to keep Fabio Vieira, right? Fabio Vieira looks like he's off to Stuttgart. That could be a really good sale for us if we can get some money back for him. Really, really positive. Well done, Andrea Berta. So it's leaving Dowman, it's leaving Nwaneri. As I just said, Nwaneri's had a great preseason. Max Dowman looks supremely confident for a 15-year-old. He looks like a player who is way ahead of his kind of progression, way ahead of his age, way ahead of anywhere that we thought he'd be, right? I think we were all excited to see him in this preseason and be excited, he's made a nice pass, that's good for him, he's a 15-year-old kid. He has been like a maverick this preseason and really, if you didn't know he was 15 years old, you'd be saying, wow, look at that signing we've made, or look at that player we've just rediscovered. He feels like a new signing at 15, and it's quite incredible how well he's doing, the impact that he's having on games. So yeah, I do think he will be involved next season. I think Ethan will, obviously, and rightly so, get a fair chunk more minutes than him, and across both of those roles, really. I do see a world where Madueke is on the left and Ethan comes on for Saka on the right or something like that. Those players are going to mix in and out of all those spots. Madueke might play on the right when Saka's not there, but also, depending on the opposition, Ethan might play there. Ethan might be understudying Martin Ødegaard and Dowman might come on perhaps for some minutes. Basically, what I'm saying is we've got so many options to protect those 2 players now. I think Mikel Arteta has done a really good job. And 2 years ago, maybe even last season, we're looking at both of them going, that's a single point of failure. And we're thinking, well, why aren't we signing players to back these guys up? Now, all of a sudden, it feels like that side is really wrapped up really, really well. And we're looking at the left and going, whoa, we really don't have an option there now. And it is an issue. And that brings me nicely on to Martinelli, whose performance frustrated me a little bit. I thought there was really good flashes. Really good flashes. Obviously, I've said it a couple of times already. The corner was really good. Got himself an assist. There were moments where he was running through, doing dangerous stuff. In fact, the very first moment of the game, he sort of went left past his defender and put a good ball back into the box. I think that was the one that ended up with Bukayo Saka's headed chance. Pardon me. And he just, at that moment when he went left and dived past his fullback, I was like, cool, you look like you're playing for your spot. And then all of a sudden he did his usual thing, puts his head down, gets himself a bit wrapped up in the kind of 6 yards around him and the one-on-one with the defender, rather than moving things quickly. And one thing I would really criticise Gabriel Martinelli for is his sense of whether there's a good opportunity or not is really quite poor. And this is worrying me now, having watched him over pre-season. We really hoped he would come back and play much better this season. He had the brilliant season 2 years ago, then he had a down season, and we all thought, cool, he'll come back. And he got away with it a bit last year because the team was so fractured all the time. It kind of went under the radar that Martinelli, I think, was really underperforming. if he doesn't perform this season, it feels like the end of his Arsenal career. And I'm still seeing the signs in pre-season of a player who is not sensing opportunities, is not driving towards the goal at the right times, is not just giving the ball quickly at the right times. Like, I think it's primarily down to his decision making, which he needs to do a little bit better. Of course, let's switch back to the back half of the pitch. Gabriel and Timber did return eventually. They came on. Both looked okay physically, to be fair. Don't look like players who've just come back from injuries. Obviously, Timber has had an ankle surgery. Gabriel has had hamstring surgery. So was a little bit interested to see how they would do. Gabriel played 45 minutes in the Watford game, remember, and has not played since until last night. So interesting to see those guys, and I'm happy that they are back and playing. Really, I'm not going to analyse their performance in any way, shape or form. Really, the first minutes of pre-season, or first proper minutes of pre-season for both of them. So I'm just happy that they are back. Similar sort of story with Victor Gyökeres up front. I thought some of his movement was quite nice. He's clearly very keen to press and drive at the defence and try and win the ball back, and the guy is energetic as anything. However, we really didn't feed him very well. He struggled to get into the game. I'm not going to overanalyze that because it's his first real start with the team. I just think he needs more time. He needs more time, and he definitely needs Arsenal players to pass to him. That's one thing I would say. Wow, it felt disconnected early doors in that game, and I was just looking at it and thinking, I wasn't looking at Victor Gyökeres and going, oh, well, you're not making the runs, you're not offering it up. I think he just wasn't clearing himself from the defenders in the same way that Kai Havertz does, where Kai Havertz runs deep. Victor Gyökeres is happy to take the ball right by a defender or spin off a defender, and it looked like all the Arsenal players were not sure whether they could give it to him with a defender so close to him. We have to pass to him if we want him to score, right? So look, that's going to be a little bit of adaptation, and we are going to have to change how we play. And I think someone like Martin Zubimendi will be really key for that. He came on at half-time, and I thought he looked just sensational. This guy, for me, will be one of the best Arsenal players next season. You can guarantee that. Like, he is so busy, and he just reminds me, and I'm not saying he is the same level as this player that I'm going to say. I'm just going to say the same style, and I hope people don't overreact to this point, that he reminds me of Xavi in the way that he's kind of small, but he is so busy. You can see him scanning all the time. He knows where everyone is, and he's not physically amazing, but somehow with his kind of energy and excitement to get the ball and his drive to move the team forward, you almost see a physical player come through because he's so energetic. There was especially one moment where he just swept up a ball in down our right hand side, Villareal's left, just swept it up, dealt with it, got it back to David Raya, read the game really well, and moments later was conducting again, and he just feels like he could be a very, very good player for us. I understand why we spent so long chasing this guy. Calafiori, Havertz and Trossard were all out. You could see Calafiori and Havertz kind of by the players at the penalty shootout and behind the bench during the game. Mikel Arteta says he's expecting all of them back for the Athletic Club game. So really, really excited about that. So look, let's sum up individual performances. I thought were mixed. Martinelli, not so good. Kivior, not so good. Players like Gyökeres, we haven't given him a chance yet. I should talk about Madueke. He came on, a couple of touches, but the most important thing is he got a really good reception. I was very, very pleased to hear that and hear the Arsenal crowd kind of warm to him. Social media is not real life, guys. Those reactions online were not what we saw in the stadium, so that's great news. But yeah, going back to my main point, really mixed performances. Midfield a bit porous, but individually, Norgard and Nwaneri especially, really, really good. Zubimendi looked good when he came on. Dowman exciting as well. So look, there's lots going on from a individual player standpoint that we will need to analyse and keep an eye on as we head towards Old Trafford. From a tactics point of view, the midfield and the defence just look a little bit and we're going to have to figure out how we get Victor Gyökeres into the games a little bit more and how we get that punch going in the final third, because there is still work for Mikel Arteta to do. weirdly, I think the best pre-season friendly we've played was the very first one, the AC Milan game. I thought that was where we had the most kind of verve and the most attacking impetus. So it has sort of gone downhill a little bit over pre-season, and I really do hope that that is due to trying different things, looking at different ways of playing, as opposed to, okay, we are actually not gelling as a group. This isn't working as well. Maybe Mikel Arteta's ideas are falling on deaf ears. I really hope it isn't that one. I hope it is the fact that we are just trying different things and they're not really coming off. So, to answer the overall question, should we be worried as fans? I understand both perspectives, maybe a little bit. It does feel as though we're a little bit undercooked, and we definitely haven't had enough time with Victor Gyökeres, and it doesn't feel like our defensive unit right now is currently good enough either. But you have to say that it's not the actual season. We are going to not be at 100%. The players are not trying their hardest. They're not physically ready yet. There is still a week and a half to go. They will be priming themselves for that Old Trafford game and get up for that. And actually, I should credit Adam from Cannon Stats for bringing this to everyone's attention on Blue Sky. I'm just going to read you the results from the 2023 pre-season. We drew 1-1 with Watford, 1-1 with Nuremberg. We beat the MLS All-Stars, lost to Manchester United, beat Barcelona, and then drew with Monaco in our pre-season friendlies. So that's 3 draws and a defeat across, I'm going to say, 6 games. 3 draws and a defeat. That's a pretty bad record, if you ask me, for pre-season. That was the pre-season where we then won the Community Shield and went on to have the 23-24 season run where we got 89 points, scored our most goals ever, and ran Manchester City right to the line for the title, and probably produced some of the best Emirates Stadium era football that we have ever seen. And that was the pre-season for that. So credit to Adam from Cannon Stats for bringing that to everyone's attention. It's a really good reminder that for everything I've said today about the worries that I have and some of the things that are creeping into our game that I'm a little bit like, oh, we kind of need to do something about that, guys. For all of those things that I do believe are true, and I do believe, it's fair enough if you are a little bit worried watching our penultimate game and seeing those things. We've got to remember, pre-season is not a great representation of how the season's going to go. And we just have to stay patient now. We have to stay patient and allow Victor Gyökeres to get embedded. We have to stay patient and allow the organisation to come back. We have to stay patient and hopefully get Eberechi Eze through the door, because I think that would help quite a bit. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Like I said at the start, if you've enjoyed this episode or any episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, please consider following and leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts from. It's 3 times a week, completely free to you. So please just show that little bit of support. It really does help. All that's left to say now is thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I will speak to you very, very soon.